Yo guys! It's your friend here, bringing you another awesome Naruto What If tale. I am back with a part 3 of What If Naruto got a herm in the DC universe. Now before we start, let's do a summary first. Transported to a world full of heroes, Naruto teams up with the greatest to stop an invasion base. On the 2001 to 2004 and 2004 to 2006 shows Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Naruto X Haram's story name is Ninja on the League. Disclaim: Lone Wolf 1 is the author of this series. 1 just made the audio adaptation of it, and yeah, I have the permission of the author. Remember to like, subscribe AF. Share this video and make sure to share it with your friends. Now let's music begin. Chapter 10. Hard as nails. Last time this is my world, Ray said, creating quicksand for Flash to fall. Whoever tried attacking him, and Ray brought the guild's shish to her. Who girl? Naruto yelled, jumping in the way, having the shield hit him first. Ray created a yellow shield as Green Lantern attacked him. I decide who win, Ray said, bringing the ceiling down on Green Lantern. He used his power to lift Green Lantern up, who screamed in pain. Suddenly the streak punched him over the room. What? Ray asked as he saw the guild let justice prevail. They yelled and attacked Ray created a blast, sending everyone back before Tom lifted up a stone pillar and threw it at him. Ray went outside, where the guild attacked at once, causing Ray to scream out in pain and pass out. Suddenly everything vanished, leaving a barren land and destroyed buildings and the guild to disappear in a flash of light. Everyone all right? Naruto asked, helping Hayate girl up. What is that? She asked. Hearing pop goes the weasel. Looking behind them, they saw the ice cream truck with cracked glass indented, along with a group of people in tattered clothes. You're all real? Green Lantern asked as the ice cream driver explained that they were, and Ray used them. I'm sorry we destroyed your world, Green Lantern said as the man shook his head. No, we did that. Huck girl looked around them before speaking up. All that's left is this nightmare, the man sighed before speaking. No, driving in an ice cream truck for 40 years, that's a nightmare. After being thanked by everyone, the League went to the basement of the mansion. Where's Naruto? Hawk girl asked before Nar flashed beside her. Present, he said. His Green Lantern yelled out yes. Looking to him, they saw he found the rusty gate. How will this get his home? Tom said he didn't have a power source. Flash said his Green Lantern looked to his rain. Maybe I can power it. He shot the top of the gate and it powered on. Go, I'm not sure how long I can keep this up, Green L said before the others dashed in with him, following later at the watchtower. Flash was finishing telling the story of Support City and those heroes with the decoder rings. What's up with that? Hawk girl walked over to them and asked, where's GL? Naruto with Kara pointed to their right, where Green Lantern was looking out the window. He hasn't moved since coming back, Kara said. Before Naruto and Hawk girl walked over to him. I don't know why I feel bad they weren't real, he said. His Hawk girl puts a hand on his shoulder. They gave their lives for us, that's real. Hearing a thud, they looked down and saw a scratched up box and Naruto walking away. Opening the box, Green Lantern's eyes widen and seen decoder rings in a black and white picture of the guild. Hawk girl looked back to Naruto and smiled at him. You're a good man, Naruto, she whispered before leaving Green Lantern to his thoughts. Now Gotham nighttime. 3 men were hung upside down by a rope with a battering on it. Bullock pulled the battering off and looked at it. Where does he get this stuff, Gordon? He asked Commissioner James Gordon, an elderly man with short gray-white hair with a mustache and glasses. He's wearing a beige suit with a black tie. Book them, he said to the other police as they brought the men down. James Ford, not noticing a teen girl with a yellow tank top, orange pants, sneakers, and a red coat with the hood up. She has black hair, gray skin, and a crescent scar under her right eye. She ran in an alleyway where a teenage boy with black hair and dreadlocks, wearing black shirt with a yellow lightning bolt and a circle logo on a white mask with sunglasses on top, blue gloves, shoes and coat. Allie Langford, he yelled as Allie stopped and looked up to him, showing long nails. She continued running and came up to a chain linked fence. She used her nails and cuts a hold to jump through. The boy chased after he on a metal disc covered in lightning. He followed her to an empty playground and used lightning that covered his hands into a makeshift spotlight. Allie, he yelled, seeing her hiding under a slide. She ran out to a light post. I'm not going by Allie, I'm nails, she said, growing her nails, and shot them at Boy, that would be a great power if I couldn't send them back, he said, using electricity, and threw them back. She hid behind the light post and then bent at having it hit the boy and ran off in the bushes. Smooth Virgil, then again you've been a step behind Ali since this whole mess went down 3 days ago. The now identified Virgil said, remembering back to 3 days ago. Flashback. 3 days ago Virgil was playing basketball with 9 other teen. Richie catch. He threw the ball to a blonde-haired boy in glasses as they continued to play. Ali with brown hair and tan skin walked by with a bunch of papers. She picked up a compact mirror and opened it. Oh no, not now, she said, seeing a gray mark on her cheek. Ali, look out, Virgil yelled out before catching the ball that almost hit her. You all right? He asked as Richie came over and took the ball. And what's with the coat? Is it going to rain? Richie asked as she started walking away. I'm fine, she said with a hiss as another boy took the ball, ran over and dunked the ball. Suddenly the board fell down as Ali was underneath it. Ali, watch out. Looking up, Ali gasped and protected her face with her arms, having the glass break. Are you all right? It's a miracle you're no dead, Virgil said as he and the others walked up. Yeah, are you sure you didn't get cut? Another boy asked before she roughly pushed him. I'm fine, the boy raised his hands. Okay, all but Virgil and Richie left, who bent down to help her pick up her things. Here, you dropped this, Virgil said, handing her a map of Gotham. Sure you don't need to see the NER, Richie asked as she grabbed the map out of his hand. I wish, she said, letting a tear fall as she left. She's sure acting strange, Richie said as Virgil looked at the broken glass. She sure is. The next day, Virgil, now wearing an orange long-sleeve shirt with blah CK5 on the sleeves and blue jeans. Richie was wearing a blue-green hoodie with jeans. Saw all the lockers were broken, smashed, or had claw marks on them. Only thing missing are a few dollars. I guess someone wanted some quick cash, Richie said as Virgil looked at his locker. And Allies is the only on. That's all right, he finished as a girl with short black hair, red sleeveless shirt with a flower on it and blue jeans walked up to them. Did you hear? Allies' parents are talking with the principal and she's ran away from home, she said as the boys looked to each other. Does she have any family in Gotham? Virgil asked as the girl thought for a moment. No, I don't think so, Virgil and Rich. She headed to the computer room and sat down at a computer. This is the last computer she used, Virgil said. His electricity came out his right hand as he used the mouse. Maybe I can find out what website she was on. Click King. He found several sites for Gotham and one for a metahuman outreach program. She would probably believe anyone who would say they could help, Richie said as Virgil looked to him. Someone asking a kid to meet over the internet is a bad idea, he said before standing up from the table and leaving Florida's back end. Virgil followed Ali up to the rooftop where she was tied up without her coat and Batman standing above her. Batman, he asked as Batman just stared at him. Thanks, he said, floating over only for Batman to step in front of Ali. I can't let you take her. Virgil raised an eyebrow at him. What I mean, really? Batman nodded and explained. Yes, I know who she's meeting. Vines started growing up on the roof. Well, who is it? He asked, only for another voice to answer. That would be me. Looking to the edge, they saw Poison Ivy riding on a vine. Poison Ivy? Virgil asked before she threw spores at them. Bah. T-Man pushed Virgil out of the way and Wood started covering them both. Red, let's go. Looking up, Ivy and Nail saw Harley flying a blimp as they left. Naruto jumped up to see Batman grapple out of the wood. Good thing I'm in town to have dinner with Barbara's dad, he said before walking over to Virgil. I got the other one, Naruto said before adding chakra to his arms and pulled Virgil out. Batman pulled out a remote and brought the bidet down. Ivy, Harley and Nails, so you two are the ones I've emailed? Nails asked after Ivy and Harley explained to her. Yes, we are, Ivy replied. His Nails turned around. I don't want any part with criminals. Before she could get to the door, Ivy spoke up. Don't you want help? We can, she went on to explain. She made it cure, but Nails needed to help them to get it back. Cave, Virgil groaned as he woke up and saw an elderly man in a suit with hair and a mustache taking splinters out. Who Ryu? He asked as the man pulled the last one out. I'm Batman. Virgil just stared at him before smirking. Yeah, I don't think so. The man just smiled at him just once. I'd like someone to believe that, he said before handing Virgil his code. Thanks, homie, he said as the man left. You're welcome, dude. Naruto smirked as he walked past with his hood down and glasses hanging off his vest. You're way too old for that, Alfred. He turned to Virgil before extending his hand. Hello, Static, or should I say Virgil Hawkins. Virgil's eyes widened and his jaw dropped. You know, Naruto handed him his school ID. Rookie mistake is keeping an ID on you while in costume. Okay, I'll keep that in mind, Static said before they walked over to Batman. Why are you in Gotham? He asked as Naruto smiled. I'm meeting Batgirl's father for dinner tomorrow. Static raised an eyebrow. Oh, that's right, you're dating Batgirl. Nodding, they mad up to Batman as he had Ivy and Harley's files on the computer. Where's Robin? Static asked as Batman continued to type. He's with the Titans. One, Batman replied, looking away. The who? Virgil asked as Naruto explained. Robin wanted to try crime fighting on his own and ended up forming a team with other teenagers in a T-shaped tower. I thought you taught him better than that, Batman, Naruto said, looking to Batman, who ignored him anyway. There was this alien girl he's crushing on. I think that's why he wanted to stay with the team. He finished before Static spoke up. The idea of Ally with those two is whack. That means crazy. He directed the last part at Batman as Naruto stifled a laugh. I know, I've tracked Ivy and Harley and found their fake website and knew where they were meeting. Batman said, getting up. Ally is just messed up. Those women took advantage of her over the internet, Static said as Batman looked to him. She left us for dead and joined up with them, Batman said as Naruto's side. No, she didn't. She's like Cheetah. She's just trying to find a cure, Naruto explained before realizing something. Your metahuman problems, kind of like those X-Men comics with being afraid of having powers. We being hated for them. Okay, well, try it your way, but the first slip up and she goes down with them, Batman said, walking to the bad jet. Here, Naruto said, handing Static a blindfold. Really? Static asked as Naruto nodded. Yeah, you have to earn his trust. Putting the blindfold on, they put Static in the passenger seat and Fort Ivy, Harley and Nails at the bay. Ivy used her vines to stop a ship from moving, having the crew come out with axes. What a shocking disregard for plant life, Ivy said as they descended on the ship. Yeah, they need to chill out, Harley said, throwing a bomb with a smiley face on it down on the ship. Gas came out and knocked the crew out. They landed and walked out. Now's the time for our little Nails to do her part, Ivy said as they walked up to a door. Nails cuts through and they walked in the room, seeing crates. Now the crates, Harley said. His Nails opened one showing bars of gold. Pretty, Harley said. BBing one on her cheek. I'm having second thoughts about this. I didn't sign up for this, Nails said as Harley tried pulling two crates. Science ain't cheap. You want my cure, you need to pay. Sighing, Nails picked up the crates and walked outside with Batman, Naruto and Santa Street. Okay, you can take it off using his electricity to pulling it off. Static saw Naruto sitting on the wing. Any ideas where they'll be? He asked as the bat signal went up in the air. How do they contact you? On a clear night, Naruto asked, but didn't receive an answer. When they got to the GCPD, they saw James Bullock and a few others. Possum standing near the spotlight. A carpet of seaweed is blocking half the bay and all shipments are dead in the water, including a gold shipment, James said as he cleaned his glasses. It sounds like your plant lady friend, Bullock said, getting in front of Batman. He and Naruto just stared at him. Give us 10 minutes if you don't hear from us. Send in police helicopters, Batman said, turning around. Yeah, Static said before noticing Batman turn around. Come on, Rookie, Naruto said, jumping on the wain as Static jogged over and got in. What did Robin do to his hair? Bullock asked as James shook his head. Later ship we crap, Naruto said. Seen Harley hitting Nails off the boat. That man shot a hook down and grabbed her as Static and Naruto jumped off. Static attacked Harley, having her jumped around dodging his attacks. He eventually shot the boat to hit her. Ivy got in the blimp and started flying in the air until all shot it with her nails. Naruto shot an arrow up, flashed besides Ivy and flashed beside Batman. Ally tried to attack the women, but Static stopped her. No, Ally, you'll be like them and spend the rest of your life running from people like them, he said, looking back to the heroes and me. He finished his LLY sighed and stopped. Why did you bother coming after me? She asked as Naruto puts a seal on Ivy. Static puts a finger on her nose. Least I could do for a girl from my hood, he said, disappearing in a flash of light. Where did he go? She asked as the heroes hold up the women. Kids got style, Batman said with A smirk. Naruto looked at his watch before cursing at the time. 6:45. I've got to go, he said before disappearing in a tornado of leaves. 6:55. Barbara's apartment. Barbara in a black dress looked at her watch again. I swear Bruce, you're becoming a bad influence, she thought before seeing Naruto run down in a black suit, dark red button shirt and red pin strip tie. Sorry I'm late, some late work with Bruce, she smiled and straightens his tie. That's all right, it's just you're usually early. She grabbed his hand before walking inside. I got the food ready and Dad called saying you'll be a little late from traffic. See, she replied as they set the table with chicken and rice. 10 minutes later the doorbell rang and Barbara let James in. Hello sir, Naruto greeted as James shook his hand. You're Naruto, right? Naruto nodded before James glanced at Barbara. I thought your friend Car's boyfriend was named Naruto, he said as Bara stiffened. At that crap, I forgot I told Dad about Naruto before getting with him, she thought before. Naruto chuckled. That's my brother Arashi, he likes mixing us up to get me in trouble. Sitting down they made small talk until Barbara went to get dessert. So where do you work at exactly? James asked as Naruto nodded. I'm currently working for Bruce Wayne as his assistant. Nodding, James puts his hands on the table. Good, now let me make one thing clear. Naruto raised an eyebrow as James picked up his gun. You hurt her and I'll make sure you get put in the worst prison I can think of. Naruto smiled. Nay. Arvuli as he nodded. Don't worry sir, I wouldn't think of doing anything that'll hurt her, he replied as Barbara came back with chocolate cake. I'm so glad you're getting along, she said putting a piece on Naruto's plate. Not noticing her dad mouthed to Naruto, I'll hold you on that. James looked at Barbara as she sat down. How are you holding up in college? Barbara smiled as she rubbed the back of her head. Some classes are a little harder to manage time-wise, they just gave me a lot of classes, she replied taking a bite of her cake, but I am doing well in them. Like I said, it's just they're at different times. Oh, I had to get used to that. I'm sure you'll get used to them, Barbara. Naruto said smiling as she smiled back. Are you in college? Naruto James asked staring at him. I went to community college early on but Mr. Wayne keeps me busy so I'll need to work around that. Nodding, James continued. What do your parents do? Naruto smiled sadly. My birth parents died shortly after I was born and my godfather is an author and my godmother's a doctor. James nodded at that. I'm sorry to hear about your parents. If I don't mind asking this, but how did they? Naruto sighed before explaining. They were killed. They did. Katsi the guy when I was 15, he explained before taking a drink, and they continued making small talk. So where did you two meet? James asked as Barbara glanced at Naruto. We met shortly after I started working with Mr. Wayne. Barbara was visiting for a school project and we hit it off after that. Naruto explained. Ned as James nodded. Okay, any plans for the future? Naruto thought for a moment before explaining. I was hoping to go into politics, maybe become a governor. Any backup plans? Naruto nodded again. Yes, I took a few writing classes, so maybe an author or a teacher. Barbara smiled as they finished with dessert. Suddenly Jam's phone went off and he answered it. Hello, okay, I'll be there soon, he said with a sigh before turning to Naruto and Barbara. Sorry, they need me down at the precinct. It was nice meeting you, Naruto, and thanks for the meal. You two have a good night, he said getting up, grabbing his jacket and I think that went well, Barbara said as Naruto nodded. Yeah, better than I thought it would be, he said getting up and taking the plates to the kitchen. A few weeks later, Dakota, Virgil and Allie at a laboratory. Allie had wires hooked up to her as she concentrated. After a moment her hair and skin turned to normal. I did it, I can control it at will now, she said as the doctor, an Asian man, took the device off her and her parents hugged her. Dr. Chen says my treatments are going so well I'll lose the ability completely. Virgil hopped off the table he was on and smiled. You're giving hope to a lot of bang ba buys, Allie. She smiled at him. Yeah, I was lucky to get in this program and it's all being paid for by Wayne Industries. Suddenly Naruto in his suit walked in with another man with short black hair in a black suit, white undershirt and black tie. Mr. Wayne. Hello, Allie greeted as Virgil stared wide-eyed at Naruto. How's our patient? Bruce asked walking over to Allie, who smiled. I'm doing great, this is my friend Virgil Hawkins, she greeted introducing Virgil. Nice to meet you, this is my assistant Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto smiled as he shook Virgil's hand. Hello, nice to meet you soon. All three of them walked T sighed. It's nice of to pick up the tab for all of this, Virgil said as they walked down to the exit. I hear she had a tough time with her condition, but I think she's earned some trust, Bruce said before Alfred, wearing a hat, came up. Sir, the car is ready. Bruce nodded before turning to the shocked teen. And she's not the only one, he finished as he and Naruto walked out. As Virgil smiled. Chapter 11, A Night of Shadows. Camelot 542. Ad 1. An army was attacking as a woman with black hair in a white dress in a purple cape and a beaded belt was sitting on a horse clutching a necklace a young blonde-haired boy on. Another horse came up. When will I get my kingdom, mother, he asked as the woman looked to the castle. Soon, my son, soon, she replied, letting the necklace go. Inside, 2 knights was guarding a door as the army tried to break it down. Suddenly another knight with a helmet came running up. The king needs you. The south gate, he said as the 2 knights looked confused but were guarding the gate. One said as the third knight nodded, I'll handle it. The first 2 shrugged and ran to the south gate. The knight took off his helmet and showed a young man with long dark red hair and black eyebrows. He walked up to the gate and pushed the beam off, letting the army and the woman in. Morgan, my love, he greeted the woman who walked over to him, leaning down for a kiss. Morgan bit the knight, who fell down as his left cheek and neck turned blue. Morgan, why, he asked as the woman left the lover, my son, more dread Camelo. T knew Kane. The knight coughed as everything but him turned red and slowed down. Art thou satisfied, villain? Looking up, the knight saw an elderly man in white robes and a beard walk up to him. By thy treachery Camelot falls this day. The knight looked up to him. You wouldn't understand, Merlin, you were not a man and never felt the sweetness of a woman's kiss, he said to Merlin, who looked around. A viper kiss, Jason, blood from a demon in human form, he said down to the now identified Jason. All my great dream gone in the name of thy tainted love, he said as Jason coughed again, and I'm paying for it with my life. Is that not enough? Jason asked as Merlin shook his head. Nay, such swift mercy is not for the likes of thee. Black smoke came up behind him as Jason screamed with a light coming off his body. Thou art cursed, Jason, blood until the day this monstrous deed is atoned for, Merlin said before pointing down at Jason. To mark thy eternal shame I bind thy soul with one from the pit, Merlin continued as Jason grabbed his head. Look now, see the face spawned by thy lust, see the demon inside, he finished as Jason started changing form. Gotham, present day. At night, Naruto and Batman jumped down on a bookshop as medics took an elderly man away. Going inside, they looked around, seeing books everywhere. Naruto turned on his detective vision and looked around. I've got 2 sets of footprints, one in high heels and another that belongs to a kid, he said. His Batman found a book with a torn page he was able to read. Chapter's name, the Philosopher's Stone. Naruto walked over before another voice spoke up. It's a gem from the hills of Camelot. Looking, they saw a man with short red hair with the white streak in a beige jacket, black shirt and gray pants, and the true source of Excalibur power, he finished as Batman puts the book down. Hello, Jason, I assume you're not here to browse, he asked as Jason just stared. I'm a friend of the owner, Jason replied as Naruto crossed his arms. The elderly guy, any idea who would attack him, he asked as Jason raised an eyebrow. He's only 32 years old, he said as the hero's eyes widened. Naruto asked, dropping his arms. Why is it? I'm thinking this is similar to something else, Naruto asked again as Jason and Batman talked. I'm sure it's nothing, probably just something I saw in a movie, he finished as Jason started explaining. A woman named Morgan Le Fay back in King Arthur's time, and her son Mre, and how she tried getting the Philosopher's Stone so her son can rule Camelot and failed, and she's still looking for it to this day. Impossible, that man said as Jason raised an eyebrow at him. You of all people should know better. After a moment, Batman spoke up. Why does she want the stone now? Jason sighed before explaining. To resurrect Camelot for her son. England, at a castle museum. Knight and guard, an old security guard, turned around and saw a blonde-haired boy using a sword to destroy a suit of armor. Young man, what are you doing? He asked as a female's voice spoke up behind him. What all bow do? Turning around, he saw a woman in a purple dress and a gold breastplate with a gem on it and a mask. Well, he just destroyed a priceless suit of armor. Everything has a price, the woman said, reaching up, showing wrinkled arms, putting them on the man's face. He suddenly screamed and aged the woman. Lu Head to her arms and showed their smooth let's go dread she said as Mad followed after her walking to another room they saw a stone chest at the end at long last Merlin's arc wheel have the stone and Camelot walking over and opening it they saw it was empty no where would he have put it Morgan asked. D as Morad looked at the chest maybe he didn't move it but the archaeologist that found it did Morgan looked back to him of course but where she stopped as the gem on her breastplate glowed Jason blood doesn't he give up she looked a more dread before speaking let's leave a gift for him later but ma. Jason and Naruto walked in the room and up to the chest and found it empty. Jason puts his hand on the bottom and his hand glowed yellow. She was here but she doesn't have the stone. That man raised an eyebrow at that. How can you be sure? Suddenly the door slammed shut and the weapons glowed yellow and attacked Jason. The doors. Naruto unsealed a small katana to fend off the weapons. He suddenly heard Jason say a spell as the suits of armor started attacking. What the hell? He asked, seeing a bright light and saw Jason transform. He now has yellow skin, red eyes and clothes. E Tryon shot fire from H. His hands turning the suits into ash. I thought I felt something in Jason. Naruto heard Kurama inside his head. We're going to need help, that man said as they went outside and calls the others. Later Wonder Woman, Jean and Flash came in. The J. Aveline and the others explained everything that went on. Red Shaw Kra surrounded Naruto before Kurama came out beside him. You have a demon also? Tryon asked as Naruto explained kind of. He was put in me an hour after I was born. Yes, someone used me to attack his parents and village, said as his tails waved a little. So you've been after LaFay for centuries? Diana A. Sked steering focus back on topic. Yes, an endless game of cat and mouse. I won't rest until her soul rots in the pit. Florida leaned over Tojin and whispered and I thought Bats was creepy. Trian got in his face and growled. How has she eluded you for so long? Batman asked as Trian looked to him. She has a GM that lets her know when I'm near, he said as Flash whispered again. With that stench it wouldn't be hard. Trian grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up. What was that? he asked as Flash started sweating. Nothing, Flash said, grabbing Rand's hand. Maybe I could cry, Jan said before his eyes glowed. After a moment he screamed and collapsed. Jan, everyone went to him. Lead and get him inside, Naruto said, picking him up and carried him inside the javelin. I sense a genjutsu on him, kid. That Morgan must have done something when he tried to sense her, Kurama said, walking near Jean. Can you release it? Naruto asked. Before seeing Jean thrash a little. Seems like Rand's already doing something. Suddenly Jean woke up gasping for breath. Hey, thought we lost you, buddy, Flash said as Jan held his head. So it was an illusion, he said, walking to the front of the javelin. What were you able to get from her? Thatman asked Jan as he stared out the windshield. She doesn't have the stone, he said as Diana sighed in relief. Thank Hera, she said before Jean continued. Before she ejected me from her mind I heard two words, archaeologist and castle. That man nodded before sitting in the pilot's seat. It's a start. He started the jet as every one sat down. Keep an eye on the Martian, Tryon said, sitting beside Batman who flew the jet. Leave it to us, he's been tainted. That's what she does. She show you your heart's greatest desire and dangles it in front of you like a carrot until she gets what she wants. Batman glanced over to him. Voice of express Arians, he asked as Etrian stayed quiet. I found out that there's two archaeologists that are still alive, Henry Moss and Harvey Hickman, Naruto explained as he looked at a website on his glasses. The magazine publisher, Flash asked as Diana looked at him. You read his magazines? she asked as he rubbed his head. I only read the articles, Naruto snorted before replying. Sure, that's what they all say. Later, Henry Moss' house. An elderly Henry Moss walked into his living room when his dog barked. What is it, boy? he asked before seeing his glass doors opened. Going to a desk he picked up a revolver. I know yo. Here, he said before turning around and saw Etrian, who knocked the gun out of his hands and growled. Henry grabbed his chest and collapsed. The dog kept barking until Etrian growled at him, causing the dog to run to the next room. Batman, Jean and Naruto walked inside with Jean kneeling in front of Henry. What did you do? Batman asked as Jean puts his hand on Henry. Hume's in shock, but he'll be fine. Concentrating. Jean read his mind, but he doesn't have the stone, he finished as Tryon hits a lamp. Then maybe Hickman does. Naruto nodded before turning to Batman. Let me know if you need help, he said before Re-poofing away showing he was a clone. Naruto Wonder Woman and Flash at Hickman's mansion. Naruto groaned as they landed. Harvey doesn't have the stone. Hickman should at least know where it is, he said as they saw people outside in costumes. Must be his Halloween party, Flash commented before they went to tea. He guard at the door. Sorry, world saving business, Flash said to the people as they walked past. You on the list? The guard asked as Wonder Woman shook her head. No, we're here on Justice League business. The guard scoffed before crossing his arms. Sure lady, so are they, he said pointing to the crude hero costumes the people wore. Right, Flash said before the guard puts a hand on Diana's shoulder. You don't want to do that, Naruto said before she lifted him up and threw him to the woods on the other side. Soon other guards came out and were about to attack. Wait, an elderly man in a robe walked out and walked around Diana, checking her out. Flash heard a growl and turned to see Naruto with his eyes turning red and took a step back. How can I deny a goddess, he asked, kissing her hand, and took a confused Diana inside. I'm with her, Flash said, speeding inside as Naruto calmly walked past the group with 1 gram. UARD putting a hand on his shoulder. If you don't want to lose that hand, Naruto said, glaring back, his pupils now slits. Then move it. The guard quickly removed his hand and Naruto walked in with Batman and Rern. Le Fay may not know Henry doesn't have the stone and we'll be waiting, Batman said, staring thou GHT the window and saw Henry the First. Still don't trust that Martian, Trian said as Batman looked to him. I trust Jean with my life. Trian just stared at him before replying, I'll be sure to leave flowers soon. More gain and more dread came in the room and Henry turned to Jean. They jumped down in the room and attacked Burn, which Trian yelled, attacking Morgan with fire, but she created a shield. Still bitter, my love, she asked as Batman attacked, but his was blocked. Also Mara, Batman saw Jean holding out his arms. Jean snap out of it. He was hit by a blast and hits Trian with both going through the wall. Come. What we seek isn't here, Morgan said as they flew away. Jan groaned until Trian attacked him, accusing him of betraying them. Wait, leave him alone, Batman said before falling to the floor. Batman, Jan exclaimed, kneeling down beside him. Confess, Martian, you let her get away on purpose. Trian said down to Jean, who stared at Batman. Later Jean took Batman to the watchtower and fixed him up. Batman groaned as he woke up and saw bandages on his chest. Careful, you have a concussion and 2 cracked ribs, Jan said, walking over. I've been through worse, Batman said, holding his ribs. I'm sorry, JN said as Batman looked to him. Why? John sighed and started explaining, I know it was fake, but it felt so real, and in my heart I wanted it to be real. I would do anything to bring my loved ones back. You wouldn't understand. Batman stared down at the floor as Jean walked away. Naruto, Flash, Wonder Woman, Harvey was showing them around his mansion, eventually coming to a statue of a woman. And this is one of my most prized possessions, a Greek. Wonder Woman interrupted him. A Roman copy. Harvey looked to her for a second. What, he asked before Flashing answered, trust her, she probably posed for the original. Harvey's eyes widened at that. A model. Wonder Woman looked at Flash in surprise as they continued walking down the hall. Where would I keep a stone of unlimited power? Naruto thought as they passed a room with a pool. Excuse me, I think I found some evidence, Flash said, speeding into the room. I should have seen that coming, Naruto said as he saw Diana flirt with Harvey to show her the stone. I'm surprised she's that good at flirting, Naruto heard Kurama say as he nodded. Yeah, I wonder where she learned that. I know it's been almost a year since she left, but I didn't think she would be that good at it, he replied before hearing Kurama growl. Kid, I feel that Morgan woman. Naruto looked around before catching a glimpse of Morgan in Harvey's room before the door closed shut. Damn, Naruto ran to the door and heard fighting before hearing a crash in the pool room. Running to he saw a giant worm going through the wall with Diana on he floor holding a small rectangle stone. What the hell was that? Naruto asked. His Wonder Woman got up and flew after the worm. Morgan turned Harvey into that. Naruto ran through the hole with Flash and saw people running to the doors but couldn't open them. Follow my clones out, Naruto yelled as he made several clones to help the people out. Suddenly Naruto saw he was in Konoha again. Really, he asked before using Kurama's chakra to break the illusion and cause Morgan to scream in pain. What are you still doing here? Get the stone far away from here as you can. Trian yelled out, running through a window. I'm not running from a fight, Wonder Woman yelled back, hitting the worm again. He's right, get the stone away from here, Naruto yelled out, shooting an arrow that exploded in a white substance on the worm. Diana slowly left through a hole in the ceiling. Get the people out, Watch Town, the League just put stone in a vault there. I'd like to see her get through this, Flash said, locking the door. Careful what you wish for, Etrian said as Flash snorted. Aren't you a ray of sunshine? Flash replied sarcastically before walking away. As far as I see, the world's safe, so I'm going to take a soak. Diana looked to Ian with a sad look. He doesn't mean that. Etrian looked at her with a bored look. What makes you think I care? He asked, walking off, leaving the S to their thoughts. Later, Diana, Batman, and Naruto were putting boxes in the hangar as Etrian watched from above. Flash was right, there's something unsettling out our friend when he stares. It's like he's staring into your soul, Diana said as the others turned to her. True, but I'd rather have him with us than against us, Batman said before the lights flickered off. We're not alone, Tryon said before the lights came on and a group of demons came out. They attacked them, with Naruto creating a bunch of clones and forming another set of hand signs. Kaden Kuru Enden Fire Release Fire Dragon Flame Bullet. Naruto shot out a stream of fire in the shape of a dragon at the group, but they walked through it. Damn, Naruto started fighting them in taijutsu before. Etrian yelled out, Flash, we need a maelstrom. Flash turned around to him. What? Tryon grabbed a demon and threw him away. RWIND nodding. Flash ran in a circle around the group as Tryon spoke a spell and froze the group faster. The group broke up into pieces and Naruto got in front of Diana, keeping the shards from hitting her. Everyone okay? Batman asked as they walked up. Yes, but where's Jean? Diana asked as Etrian answered, Hune's gone, as is the stone. When they went up to the vault they saw the stone was indeed gone. You pathetic excuse for heroes, Etrian said, pacing. It can't be, Diana said as Etrian looked to her. Oh really, your highness, I've tracked that witch for centuries and yet you've ignored my warning. Smack. Naruto winced as Diana slapped Etrian. The truth hurts, doesn't it, Princess? Etrian asked, rubbing his cheek. Suddenly Flash came speeding in. The javelin's gone and Jan's access codes are ill punched in the hangar controls, he said. His Etrian looked to Diana. Still don't believe me, he asked as Naruto thought for a moment. We couldn't take the stealth jet, it'll take long to catch up to him. Maybe we can still catch up. Get a lock on the javelin, he said to Etrian, who raised an eyebrow. Before opening a portal where Jean was with Morgane in a castle. They jumped through and kept Jean from handing the stone over. Naruto closed his eyes for a moment before opening them, showing red slitted eyes and red chakras surrounding him. He helped the others fight Morgan until he heard a scream and saw Etrian turn back into Jason again. Jean walked up to Morgan and crushed the stone. You fool, you could have had anything, Morgan said as Janin looked at her. The price was too steep, he replied before Mordred looked up to Morgan. Have we lost Mother? Morgan looked down before replying. The bat. But not the war. They disappeared in a flash of light. Suddenly the castle turned into London. Everyone went outside and JN looked up to the sky. My friends, I'm sorry. Turning to him he continued, in trying to get my old family back I almost lost my new family. Accept my humblest apology and my resignation. Ion from the Justice League. Jan finished before turning around. Wait, Jason said, having Jean stop. The demon was wrong about you. If only I had your strength back then I wouldn't be cursed to be alone for eternity, he finished before walking off. Poor man, I hope he finds peace, John said, watching Jason disappear in the fog. Naruto walked up with Diana and puts a hand on his shoulder. I'm sure this isn't the last we'll see of him. We may just help him get rid of the curse, he finished before everyone went to the javelin. Chapter 12 Metamorphosis. Desert Mining Company 827 mil. A little more and we'll reach New Zealand. One miner with black hair mustache in a hard hat standing on a drill said to another with blonde hair who was near a tank with a circle value on it. All of this for a few barrels of stinking oil, the blonde hair said before the drill shook. Let's just hope this old mine shaft holds out, he finished before going back to the tank. A few minutes later the monitor on the drill beeped. Methane gas, shut it off, the black-haired one yelled to the blonde who was turning the valve on it. I'm trying. Steam came out of the tank before the drill stopped. The drill shook again before fire came out the hole. and knocked the blonde-haired miner out. The other one carried him down the stairs and handed him to two others. Get out of here before it blows. They ran away just as the drill blew up. Later, mining company. A man with gray hair in a light blue suit stopped playing the video of the explosion to the compa. NY stockholders. Gentlemen, you've got a problem, the man in the blue suit said as the owner of the company of a man with black hair, mustache and beige suit looked at him. It was an accident, Simon, he defended as Simon puts his hands on the table. You got lucky, Mr. Bradick, but because of unsafe conditions he union are demanding higher wages, Simon countered as Bradick and other stockholders talked, and the insurance companies won't cover you anymore. Luckily I've got a solution. Bradick looked over to him and waved his hand. Please, Mr. Stagg enlightened as Project Metamorpho, a worker that won't only survive in most work environments but thrive in them, Simon explained as he played a video of a person turning into the elements. We need a real solution, some half-baked scheme, Bradick said as Simon turned to him. What if I show you it will work? Simon asked before the group got up and left. Then we'll do boosing. Then Bradick said before leaving. Later, Simon is in his office calling his assistant. Java, are you at the train? He asked as he looked out the window. I'm getting on now, Java replied before Simon sighed. Whatever you do, don't let that mutagen out of your sight, he said before hearing other people talking. Of course, Mr. Stagg at the train. A few minutes later, a muscular man in a blue suit sat in the first car with a briefcase in his lap, looked out the window as one of the workers came up. I'm sorry, sir, but you'll have to check that, the worker said, taking the briefcase from him. But my boss said the man tried to keep the briefcase with him, but the worker left. In another car, a man with short brown hair was being severed by a woman with short red hair. You want any more? She asked, pouring him a drink. Only if you'll join me, he said with a smirk as the woman giggled. Maybe after I get off, she said seductively. Why? Before leaving soon, the train shook and started picking up speed. What the man asked before the red-haired woman tripped as she was near him and fell in his lap. Hello, the man said before putting her in the seat next to him and buckled the seat belt. Better fasten your seat belt, he said before train took on a green hue outside. Green Lantern used his ring to try and slow the train. Come on, he grunted before flying down and skidded into the ground. The train crashed into the station and derailed inside. Later, one of the inspectors was talking to Green Lantern as paramedics are taking injured people outside. It's a good thing you slowed it down. If it was going full speed, it would have been a lot worse, he said before turning around and leaving. That's John for you. Turning around, John saw the brown-haired man walk up to him with a duffel bag strap over his shoulder. Rex Mason, long time no see. Rex shook John's hand and smiled. Yeah, I see her still in uniform, although not standard Marine Corps issue, Rex said looking at John's sea costume. I signed up with a new unit, John replied, bringing his ring up. So I see, Rex said, fixing the strap on his shoulder. And you? I see her not mucking in the trenches. X nodded before replying, what can I say, life's been good, we should catch up, that is if you're not busy. For an old pal at Rex's penthouse. Rex held 2 glasses of wine as he walked over to John, who was looking out the window. Nice place, John said as Rex handed him a glass. It sure beats the barracks in tea. Military, Rex said taking a sip from his glass. Big penthouse, traveling first class, you've done all right for yourself. Rex nodded with a smile before replying, ya life's been good, surely the hero is as well. You must be rolling in the dough, right? John shook his head before answering, no, it doesn't work like that. I barely got the clothes on my back. Suddenly a female voice spoke up, well, we'll just have to take you shopping. Turning around, John saw a woman with tan sin, long blonde hair and wearing nothing but a towel. John, meet my fiancée Sapphire. Stag. John raised an eyebrow at that. You're dating the boss's daughter, he asked as Rex wrapped his arm around Sapphire. I told you the job has its perks. Sapphire giggled and continued, only daddy doesn't know. John sighed before replying, you always did like to live dangerous, Rex. Sapphire walked out of the room. I like to live dangerous to Mr. Stewart. J.N. Liu head back to Rex before asking, I take it her father doesn't know? Rex shook his head before taking a sip from his glass. No one's good enough for Simon Stagg's daughter. Suddenly John's earpiece beeped. Excuse me. Walking away, he put his hand to his ear. Go, he said before Batman replied over the earpiece, we're At the train and found the cause of the crash. Nodding, John heard Naruto continued. It's from a mutagen. Someone was illegally carrying it on the train. There's two people on the train from a Stag Enterprise. Rex Mason is a worker in Java, no last name. That's Simon's assistant driver and bodyguard. One of them may have carried it. Nodding, John turned back to Rex. There's something you want to tell me? Rex looked at him confused before replying. What are you talking about? John walked up to him and explained the cause of the crash was from someone illegally carrying chemicals in the train's cargo. Someone who works for a place like Stag could do that. Rex narrowed his eyes before setting his glass down. What are you saying? I would never. John didn't back down and continued. You always did say you would do anything to get ahead. Rex just stared at him before continuing. I got nothing else to say. JN walked to Abel and left a small communicator. I see. Call me if you change your mind, he said before walking out and flying off. Later at Stag Enterprise. You idiot, Simon yelled at Java, who looked down. Do you know how much it'll cost me to cover up your connection to the crash, he asked, and before Java could reply, Simon spoke up again. If this project fails, Stag Enterprise will go bankrupted and it will be your fault. Before he could say anything else, his intercom beeped. Mr. Stag, Mr. Mason is here to see you. Simon pushed a button and replied, send him in. Rex walked in past Java, raising an eyebrow. Mason, thank heave. And you're all right, we'll sue that train company for everything. Rex interrupted him. Why was Java on the train? Simon sweated a little and smiled nervously. Why, he was running errands for me. Rex just stared at him for a moment. Forget about it, it's yesterday news. I'm not hearing you denying it. Simon glared before standing up. Then you'd better forget it. I made you and I can unmake you, he threatened before Rex turned around. Okay, Mr. Stag, he said over his shoulder before leaving Naruto at Stag Enterprise. Later that night, Naruto dropped in the window into a hall and hid behind some boxes as a guard as walking by. Getting behind him, Naruto grabbed his neck, knocked him out and dragged him behind the boxes. Now then, where would the laboratory be, he asked himself as he walked down the hall. Coming to a door, he tried to open it only to find it locked. Damn, it's never easy. Looking around, he found a vent on the wall beside the door. Kneeling down, he silently removed the vent, walked in and fixed the vent back while using a small amount of glue to hold it in place. He crawled in the vent for a minute before coming to the end. Hey, I'm not getting anything from Mike. Nar turned on his detective vision and saw 6 armed guards in the room quietly removing the vent. Naruto walked out and saw the other vents, fire extinguishers and gargoyles near the ceiling, all glowing yellow-orange. Wow, this building must be old, Naruto thought before jumping up to one of the gargoyles. One of the guards walked underneath and he jumped on him, knocking him out. Who was that? Naruto silently cursed before jumping onto another gargoyle. Guess they can hear me, punch them out. I should be quieter, Naruto thought, seeing an info box come up showing 5 armed. I guess Bruce updated my glasses before, it didn't tell me how many there were. Naruto also saw the guards' heart rates go up. Naruto picked a small chip out of his pockets, puts it on a kunai and threw it near a gargoyle. Hey, what's that? One guard asked, hearing of pain, and walked near the kunai. Naruto jumped over to the gargoyle and waited. It's some kind of knife, the guard said before Naruto jumped behind him and attached a wire to him. Hey, the guard went up in the air and hung upside down. Naruto jumped up as the 4 guards came to the strung up one. Okay, stay in groups. They split up in groups of 2 and started looking around. Naruto dropped near a floor vent and inside he followed the vents around to behind one of the groups. Getting out, he slammed the heads of the guards together before going back up as the guards came close. Nar threw a smoke bomb down, jumped in and knocked the 2 remaining guards out. Well, that was fun, Nar said before walking to a door with a sign on it, security room. Walking in, Naruto saw a bunch of screen with different rooms on it. Looking at a top screen, Naruto saw Rex in a tube with smoke in it being hit with a beam. Holy crap. Looking to another screen, Naruto saw Simon at the controls hitting buttons. Well, I guess Rex can throw Stag about those chemicals that caused the reek, and Stag decided to silence him or something. Reaching into his left leg pocket, Naruto pulled out a small handheld laptop. Pulling a wire from the back, Naruto hooked it up to one of the screens and recorded everything. Now I still need to find the Gal chemicals for more evidence. Putting the laptop away, Naruto saw the lab on another screen and saw it was just outside the room. Walking out, Naruto went to the laboratory and went up to the door. He opened it as his eyes widened. Stag must have gotten some out and forgot to lock the door. Looking around, Naruto saw different tubes with chemicals in them. He eventually saw a computer on with Project Metamorpho on the screen. Clicking on the video, Naruto eyes widened, seeing everything the person can do. Clicking on another link, Naruto saw the process to do it and narrowed his eyes, seeing it's what happened to Rex. But why Rex? He seems like the kind of guy that wouldn't do this. It's also supposed to change your appearance. Suddenly the computer beeped. You have mail. Opening the email, Naruto saw it was from a mining company and read it. Dear Mr. Stag, we can't wait for your demonstration of Project Metamorpho in a few days. Naruto narrowed his eyes at that. So he's using Rex as a guinea pig, but why? Taking out a portable USB drive, Naruto copied every he could, hooked something on the back and left through another vent leading outside. Okay, I'll be able to tap in the computers here anytime I have a feeling. Stag won't just settle for a minor, he thought, going to his motorcycle and leaving. Next day, Supergirl, Superman, Johan, Green Lantern, Girl, Batman, and Naruto. Anything? Green Lantern asked as the others shook their heads. No, I can't see or hear him, Supergirl replied, flying beside the bad jet. Naruto and Batman, that may have to wait. Look, Girl said, pointing down to a bank robbery with the criminals getting in an armored truck. Green Lantern and Supergirl flew down and went after the criminals. Supergirl flew down on the hood and stopped the car. She punched through the windshield, grabbed the two men and slammed their heads together as Girl grabbed the third in back, while Green Lantern took the bumper and wrapped it around the three men that should keep the here until the police get her. Suddenly he heard a beep. It's Mason. Hello, okay, I'll meet you there. He flew off as the girls watched on. A few minutes later they heard Naruto's voice over their earpieces. Guys, GL is in trouble. They flew off to the coordinates where Green Lantern was getting there. They saw Superman take care of a multicolored man. His head and left leg were white, his chest being light brown and purple, his right leg being dark brown. Superman went to the man, grabbed him, and the man's arm turned glowing green. Kryptonite, Naruto yelled out before opening the jet and jumping down, with Batman doing the same. He ran to the site and saw a van with a light coming out the back window. What the? Turning back, he saw Girl hit the man in the face. His head turned to mud and reformed back. He shot concrete out of his hands and hits Girl's wings, having her fall. Jan turned into a large snake and wrapped around the man, who turned into fire, sending Jan falling down. John, is that Mason? Naruto asked before hooting an arrow as Batman threw a battering and both exploded. How did you guess? Green Lantern asked as Naruto sighed. Because Stag has a project that does that to people, and I saw the accident. Stag did it on purpose, Naruto finished, pointing to Rex, whose hands turned into water and smoke and brought each together. Boom! Naruto flew over the van. His Green Lantern brought up a wall to protect everyone from the blast. Made Mason stop this. Naruto sat up and caught both Simon and Jav's head in the van with a camera. Crap, what the hell is he doing? Naruto thought before jumping over and saw Green Lantern slam Rex on the ground and cover him up in green energy. Naruto turned around and saw the van leave. Good thing I'm hooked up to the computers at his building. Hold on, Supergirl said, breaking the concrete off of Girl, who got up. Stat was here recording us, Naruto said before Green Lantern walked up to him. Why didn't you stop him? Naruto deadpanned before pointing over to everyone. I don't know, maybe I was trying to help take care of the person who can take us out like it was nothing. At Sapphire's apartment a few minutes later, Sapphire was sitting on her couch when she heard a clanking in the bathroom. Walking over, she saw the faucet turn on and water fill of the sink. The water formed into a man reaving. Rex walked up to her, glaring. How could you dump me? He yelled, asked, punching the wall, causing Sapphire to run to the door. What are you talking about? Rex walked to the mirror. My old buddy Green Lantern, but who wouldn't want a superhero instead of a freak like me? He asked, punching the mirror. Sapphire walked over and slapped him. I don't know who told you that, but I love you, you big lug. No matter what, she said, grabbing his face. But the pictures, Sapphire interrupted him, are fake. Ho showed them to you. Rex thought for a second before widening his eyes. How could I be so blind? All but his head turned to smoke and he flew out the window. Later John and Naruto were talking to her as she explained what happened earlier, and then he turned into smoke and left. Sapphire finished as John spoke up. Any idea where he could have gone? Shaking her head, Sapphire looked out the window. I think he's going after your father. They turned to Naruto, who spoke up. Why? She asked as John sighed. Because he's found evidence that your father did it to Rex on purpose. Naruto nodded before showing her picture of her father at the controls. Look at the time. Looking down, she saw the time stamp was when Rex had his accident. He wants to sell the formula to a mining company, but after fighting as he's considering selling it to the military. I just sent everything I found and the police are on their way to arrest him. Get him back. John finished his. Sapphire smile. Thanks, I know why he talks about you a lot. John looked surprised at that. Really? But he has it made? Sapphire shook her head. He watches you on the news. I think he wants to trade places with you. John shook his head and replied, I guess the grass as always greener. He flew up with Naruto to Stag Enterprise. Later at Stag Enterprise, both Green Lantern and Naruto flew down to the destroyed building as paramedics were taking an unconscious Simon away and Batman looking around. We're too late, Batman said before Green Lantern saw Rex's left arm Our rubble. Maybe not, he said, lifting the rubble. John good. Our Rex said before Green Lantern created a dome to keep him in. Hold on, Simon created a monster and it's rampaging now. Green Lantern raised an eyebrow at that. And you expect me to believe that after you tried to fry me? Rex looked down before repel. Ying, I wasn't thinking straight and we'll hash it out later, but now there's a monster out there. Naruto turned on his glasses and saw Rex's heartbeat. He's telling the truth, John. A few moments later, Batman puts a hand to his mask. Hot girl confirms there's a monster downtown. I want to help, Rex said as Naruto turned to John. He could help us if the monster is anything like him. That man pulled up a chalkboard off of the ground before speaking up. I'll stay here. I could find a weakness to the monster. Nodding, Green Lantern flew with the others to the city and found a giant green chemical monster. King down through the city with Superman, Supergirl, Jean and Hawkgirl getting up from being attacked. Here we go, Hawkgirl said, bringing up his mace. Hold it, Hyun here to help, Green Lantern said before Naruto spoke up. Where's the monster going? He asked as Supergirl spoke up. I don't know, he seems to be mindless. Jan shook his head before replying, no, there's a mind. I feel anger and resentment. Rex thought for a moment before speaking up. A part of Stag's mind must have been transferred to that thing. Any idea where he's going? Green Lantern asked before Rex's eyes widened. Later they saw Stag with his Uter in hand climbing a building. They attacked it, but Stag fought back with fire, smoke and acid. He hits Hawkgirl, sticking her to a building. I'll get her, Naruto yelled out before Supergirl got hit with smoke, causing her to fly into a building. You all right? Naruto asked, taking a kunai out and start cutting her free. Yeah, I'm fine, she replied before hearing a scream. Rex, no. Turning up, they saw Rex turn orange and jumped into Stag, and after a moment they both exploded. Later everyone was on the roof as Sapphire stood at the edge. He was a good man, John said. His Sapphire cried he would have love to hear you say that, she replied, sniffling a little. Suddenly the orange liquid started forming together. Get ready, Naruto said before the liquid turned into Rex. Ow, I wouldn't want to do that again. Sapphire ran up to him and hugged him. Naruto walked up and fished out a watch. Here, put it on and press the button. Doing that, Rex changed into his old appearance except with black hair and a beard. I figure you should lay low for a while. I also put a small seal on the band so the beard and hair will feel real as someone touched them, Naruto explained. His Sapphire felt both of his hair and beard. They feel real, she said before kissing him. Naruto felt Supergirl grab his hand and rest her head on his shoulder. That was a good thing you did for him. Nodding, Naruto kissed the top of her head before replying, yeah, I know, I though it would be like Barbara. He looked back to Rex and Sapphire before turning around with Supergirl and left with the others doing the same. Chapter 13, The Savage Time. Green Lantern, Superman, Hawkgirl, Jean, Wonder Woman, Flash and Naruto. Green Lantern was pulling a damaged javelin with the others inside. Are we there yet? Naruto asked his Green Lantern. Sigh, I see the watchtower Head so yes, but I'll need to recharge my rain after towing you all halfway across the galaxy. Superman pushed a button on the console. Javelin 7 to Watchtower. A moment later Batman spoke up. Watchtower here, we're coming in. Superman replied before Batman spoke up. And just when I was enjoying the pizza. ND quiet, Kara just left for a mission in Metropolis. Superman smirked at that same old bats. Suddenly a bright light came on the Earth. Great Hera, Wonder Woman exclaimed before the jet shook, sending everyone flying. What was that? Naruto asked before Wonder Woman fell on him. Guys, look. Superman pointed out the windshield and saw the watchtower was gone. Superman ran up to the console and tried reaching the watchtower. Batman, come in. Do you read me? Jean spoke up after a second of concentrating. He's not here, and neither is the watchtower. Metropolis, no wreckage, no blast, nothing. Flash said to the OT. Hers as they were landing. Maybe they're cloaked so he can't reach him, Naruto said as they got out and saw a completely different Metropolis. Looking around they saw posters of a man with black hair and goatee on them, along with flags with what looks like a S inside a circle. Where the hell are we? Florida's H asked as Superman looked around, stopped on a building and saw something that shocked him. I think we're home. Looking up they saw the Daily Planet with a hand holding the globe instead of it by itself. But how? Hawk Girl asked as Naruto thought for a moment before speaking up. Could it have been that light pulse maybe that sent us to a different dimension, like with the Justice Guild? You there? Turning around they saw two men in gray uniforms. Hey, it's the boys in gray, Naruto said confusedly as one pulled up a laser gun. Where are your ID papers? They asked as Naruto stared dumbfounded at them. Really? Are they not grasping the concept of the suits? He asked before walking up to one. I'm sorry, I left it back in my other costume. The cop pulled out a pair of handcuffs. Well then you're under arrest, Naruto sighed before quickly grabbing the man and threw him over his shoulder, dashed over and kicked the other one. Suddenly more on hover vehicles came out and started attacking them. Superman, Hawk Girl, Wonder Woman and JN flew up to attack his Flash, and Naruto took care of the ones on the ground and shot arrows at the bikes. Over here, Flash and Naruto turned around and saw a shadowed figure with long ears. Bats? They asked as the figure walked out, showing Batman in an armored suit with a helmet that's covering all but his mouth. Hurry, everyone followed him in the alleyway and down a manhole in a subway train. Okay, what's? Flash stopped as the men fired at them. Batman turned the car on and sped down. Tracks everyone. Big Green Lantern and Superman fell down onto each other. Who hand is that? Ha Girl asked with an edge in her tone. Naruto sheepishly removed his hand. Sorry about that, he apologized before looking out the window and saw the tunnel boarded up. Holy crap, suddenly the boards moved up as they passed and went back down. A few minutes later they stopped on a platform with an armored car and a computer on a higher platform. Batman walked forward before Flash dashed over to him. Hey, why? He stopped as men and women in the same costumes walked out of their hiding places and pointed guns at them. No, I have questions, Batman said, turning around. I can feel his glaring, Naruto thought before Batman spoke up. Who are you? The others looked surprised at that. Scary bats more than usual, Flash commented, reeing back a little. The Resistance can use people like you. Batman finished his Green Lantern walk. Up, what are you talking about? You've known us for years, he said. His Batman picked up a gun and aimed it at them. You must have me confused for someone else. Superman dashed forward and grabbed the gun out of his hand. Enough, he yelled as the others pointed their guns at him. If we wanted to hurt you, Superman said as smoke covered the group and clones of Naruto was behind each person holding a kunite to their necks, we would have already done it, Naruto finished before for dispelling his clones, and Superman handed him the gun back after bending it. Let's talk, Batman replied as the Resistance group put down their guns and left. Batman went on to explain about the regime and Vandal Savage, who was the dictator of the world. As Batman explained, Naruto was at the railing looking down at the Resistance group with a few kids playing. As he was looking around, Naruto saw Barbara in the arms of a man with long black hair and a ponytail. Barbara, Richard, his eyes widened seeing her kiss Richard. He growled, crushed the railing a little and was about to jump down until Kurama stopped him. Easy kid, we seem to be in another timeline or dimension. You probably never existed here and I didn't sense Kara either. Oh. Naruto took a deep breath before turning around and catching the last of the conversation. Why weren't we affected? Diana asked with Jean turning to her. Maybe the aura from Green Lantern's ring protect us. Batman turned around and got out of his seat. Cared to share anything? Superman turned to him and asked, did you experience any electrical or magnetic disturbances recently? The Tat Man looked down and thought for a second before replying, we had interference on our comm links earlier. Why later? Nighttime at Savage's laboratory, the heroes busted in a room with what looked like a small hole in the mid DLE with scientist in radioactive suits. The scientist ran as the hero ran in and guards attacked them. Naruto, tapping into Kurama's chakra, went through some hand signs and puts his hand on the floor. Dodendoru Heki, Earth release, Earth style wall. A wall came up just in front of the heroes. Keepin' the guards from them. The heroes walked up to the hole. As Jean explained, he overheard it can be used for time travel, so someone went back in time and changed the past. Hayat girl asked as Jean nodded. It seems so. Batman whack up and looked to the hole. So you're saying that the reason the world my life's like this is because someone went back and changed the past? It would seem so. Batman looked down for a moment before replying, so going back and fixing it could keep my parents alive. The others looked to each other for a moment before Superman spoke up. I can't promise that. Naruto looked to the monitor and saw that there was a time limit. We only have 48 hours before the portal collapses. Batman looked up to the heroes and spoke up. Do it. Jean walked up to him and looked at him worriedly. If we fix the past, this version of you will have never existed, he explained. His Batman stared at him. Nothing w old make me happier. Everyone walked up to the edge and Hawk Girl looked back to Batman. Do you want to come? The Tat Man shook his head before replying, no. If this doesn't work, someone needs to stay and fight. One by one the heroes jumped in the hole, leaving Batman to his thoughts. Con France train Stati. On June 10, 1944, everyone fell from a few feet in the air inside a destroyed train station. Everyone groaned as they sat up. Where are we? Flash asked, holding his head before hearing gun and cannon fire speeding on some rubble. Flash saw German soldiers fighting the Allied forces. Great jumping hair. The other heroes walked up and saw the armies fighting. It's like those old documentaries, Flash commented before the German soldiers ran inside as a giant wheel that's several stories tall with spikes. It's well armored and is mounted with 2 artillery cannons and anti-personnel weapons on each side. Those weren't in them, Naruto commented before they dashed over to help. Green Lantern shielded the tanks as Flash ran beside the wheel. Hey Colonel, Clink. The cannon moved and shot at him, sending Flash into the air. Suddenly something crashed into the wheel, sending it on its side, stopping it. The others looked and saw Naruto with his cloak dying down. Well, that was easy, Naruto said, walking over as the Allied forces cheered and whistled at the women, not feeling jealous like when Harvey flirted with Diana. Naruto sighed as he watched some men trip and fall. Seeing Diana and Shira know at this time women was NT allowed in the armies. They're just reacting because they haven't seen any women for a while, he thought before Jean phased out of the wheel after knocking the soldiers out. Inside he held up a transistor. I found this inside. Diana took it from him and looked at it, but they weren't invented until AF. Tear the war, JN exclaimed as Naruto walked up. That must be the reason the Allies lost. Whoever came back brought at least 21st tech year. At least a year ago, hearing a blast, they turned around and saw more wheels. The soldiers are getting decimated, Superman yelled as all but he Jan, Diana and Naruto flew over. Go, I'll go to Berlin. I feel like the source is there, JN said before Diana walked up to him. I'll go. I can't let you go into enemy territory by yourself. Naruto walked up and nodded. Yeah, I'll go too. Wait a second though. Concentrating, Naruto made a clone without his bow and red chakra went at the sea. Lone's appearance took a more wild look with spikier hair, red slitted eyes, and his whiskers were more defined. The clone cracked his neck and looked at the others. Been a while since I was in a human body, Kurama said. In Naruto's clone body. I won't do bold words since he won't be with Naruto. Kurama, I will help you with the wheels since you'll be busy helping the soldiers, Naruto explained as Kurama dashed away near a wheel. They heard maniacal laughter before one wheel exploded and fell on its side. Just be glad he's on our side, Naruto said with a sweat drop. That's right, run away, flee from the MI. GHTY Kurarama yelled as the others left. I have a bad feeling this will come back and bite me in the ass, Naruto thought as Diana picked him up and flew after Jean with Vandal Savage Mean Führer, a man in a blue suit with a red armband that the German army wore with a S on it, yelled. Running with a paper up to Vandal Savage, who was looking at a world map with other people. This just came in. Vandal took it and read it. People with powers helping the allies. This is propaganda, he yelled, throwing the paper down. What if it's not? Turning around, Vandal raised an eyebrow at the blonde hair. Ed man in glasses. What if they're true? How will we beat them? Vandal walked back to the table, putting his right hand in his shirt. You forget the weapons of created and more are coming like this. He pulled out a metal glove and shocked the man. Any questions? The other men shook their heads, making Al smile. Suddenly the building shook. What now? Vandal asked, annoyed. Before the building shook again, outside of blonde HAED man in a beige suit jumped the fence and walked up to a plane. Hold it. Turning around, the man saw a soldier point a rifle at him. The man tackled the soldier, grabbed his rifle and CKED him out. The man got in the plane, started it and flew up just as other soldiers shot at him. Other planes flew behind him and the man went high in the air above them before diving back down, shooting them. He was eventually shot, breaking the windows, and the engine started smoking. Diana, holding Naruto and Jan, flew up and saw the man jump out and get hit with a piece of the plane. Diana, throw me at a plane and go after the person that fell, Naruto yelled before he was thrown up to a plane, taking Kai out. Nar broke the window, pulled the man out with a parachute and threw him off, getting in Naruto's side. Not as advanced as our time, but I think it's still a little much. Turning around, Naruto fired at the rest of the planes as Jean phased through others. After dealing with the planes, Naruto landed near Diana and the blonde-haired man, who kissed her hand. Remember, Naruto, they don't see women very much. Naruto thought with an eyebrow twitch. He started walking over and stopped for a second. Wait, why am I feeling jealous? He shook his head, walked over and waved. Hello, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto greeted, holding out his right hand only for the man to pull out a revolver and pulled a hammer. Seriously, Naruto, Sked, holding his hands up as he stared at him. Steve, he's with me, Diana yelled, grabbing Steve's hand, trying to keep him from shooting. Naruto, what's someone from Japan doing with an angel like you two? Steve asked, glaring at Naruto, who narrowed his eyes. Listen, I'm not from Japan, at least this Japan, Naruto explained slowly, walking over, taking off his hood. Well, you don't look Japanese, but I still don't trust you, Steve commented before Jean faced up behind him. Turning around, Steve gasped as he saw Jean look at him. He's also with us, Diana said as they went to a tree, and Steve explained he found a communicator that tells where Vandal, who's the Führer, is invading next. Do you know where his base of operations is? JN asked Steve, who nodded. Yes, he has a base a few miles from here, but you'll never get in. Jean just stared at him before becoming translucent. I have a feeling it'll be easier for me, he said. Oing in the ground as Steve took a step back. Sure I'm not dead, he asked Diana as Naruto spoke up. No, we're just awesome like that. Steve glared at him. I wasn't talking to Whiskers, he said before turning back to Diana, making Naruto grumble under his breath. Bastard, with Jean at Vandal's laboratory. Jan ASED up through the floor and saw a laptop hooked up to a machine. He was about to take it until he heard someone walking to him. Looking to his right, he saw a door with verboten forbidden on it and went inside. As he phased through, he saw a man frozen in a tube with short black hair and a toothbrush. Eustache, fascinating. Hearing something, he turned around and saw Vandal with a metal glove pointed at him. Vandal shocked him, making him hit the tube and fall over unconscious. When he woke, he saw he was strapped to a table, leaning up, and Vandal looking at him. I didn't think other superior men would be here. John raised an eyebrow at that. Excuse me, he asked as Vandal smirked. Men who are fated to rule the world. Jan raised an eyebrow at that. Isn't that what you want? Vandal turned back to him and smirked. I want is peace, unity, and progress. I know you're from the future. I am also. Vandal chuckled. I'm not from the future, but the laptop, as he went on to explain how his future self sent it to him along with schematics of vehicles, weapons, and the Allied forces' plans. Knowing the future, how can I fail? Jan glared at him for a second before replying, I've seen your future, it doesn't work. Vandal walked up to him and crossed his arms behind his back. Where are your friends? Jean glared at him for a second. I'll never betray them. Vandal smirked before walking outside where a blonde-haired man with gloves walked up. Make sure to make him talk. Joseph nodded and walked forward. I haven't met a person who hasn't talked, Joseph replied, walking in. And a second later the guards outside heard screaming. A few minutes later Joseph walked out and fixed his hat. This one is tough. I'll need my special tools. Make sure no one goes in or out, he addressed the guards before leaving. A moment later they heard someone speak in German. One picked up his gun, walked down and saw Joseph on the table instead of Jean, Superman, Flash, Green Lantern, Girl, and Kurama. The others were helping the Allied army get out of the city as the war wheels attacked them. Green Lantern created a shield to stop one as Superman lifted a true CK of wounded soldiers. Go, I can't hold them for much longer, Green Lantern shouted as Kurama and Flash grabbed ones on the ground. Suddenly the wheel shot at the shield, obliterating it, and said Green Lantern flying near another soldier. He tried to use his rain but it only lit up. Damn, he cursed before he picked the soldier up and ran away. Lantern Girl yelled, carrying two men. Get him out of here, Green Lantern shouted, handing the man and running to the side. He was hit with a blast, sending him in front of the wheels. He looked to his rain only to find it gray out of power. He commented before looking back to the wheels. Back with the others, Girl landed on a boat at the beach with Flash. Where's G? he asked as Kurama jumped down with two more. His ring gave out. He's still back there. Flash's eyes widened at that. You mean you left him back there? HWK Girl started at him for a second. What's old I do? These men needed medical care. I'm going after him. Flash sped away before Girl could stop him. He's forgetting John has military training. Girl turned to Kurama, who spoke. I mean, sure, the enemy has those wheels, but Jonk trained in a time more advanced than now. He even knows the guns Hair using. He finished before enemy planes flew in. Great, Girl commented, picking her mace up. She and Superman flew up and attacked several planes. Girl grunted as a bullet grazed her wing and flew high above the planes to catch her breath. Suddenly she heard an explosion and looked back. She saw W4 blue planes with red wings and tails with a hawk logo on the sides and the wings shooting the planes. Friends of yours? Superman asked, flying beside her. She smiled, seeing the logo. They now with the planes they attacked the enemy, forcing them to retreat. Later Girl was helping set up sandbag as Superman landed with another truck. She flew over as Flash dashed over. I couldn't find G. I still can't believe you left him back there. Flash directed the last part to Girl, who glared at him. Come with me, she said, pulling him over to the med tent where Kurama was helping healing the soldiers. Look there, she said, pointing ahead. Yes, so he asked, crossing high arms, not getting what she was saying. Look again. The casual IES would have been much worse if we stopped to help. JN Kurama walked over, wiping his hands on a towel. Besides, he has military training. Flash, it's not like he's helpless. He's another group of people now, he explained, getting both of their eyes to widen. What? he asked them as they stared. How do you know that? Girl asked as Kurama shrugged. An ability we gained after syncing our chakra. We can feel anyone as long we know their signatures or the area they're at. Hearing an engine, they turned and saw the Hawk planes land. Four men came out, each wearing blue pants coats with one having the logo on it, white gloves and black boots. Thanks for helping, Girl said as the men came together. You don't have to thank us, we would have attacked the planes anyway. Superman glanced at the Hawk logo on the first man's coat. I don't recognize that insignia. What country are you from? The first man glanced down. We Blackhawks are not from one country. Andre is from France, he introduced the black-haired man with a small mustache. Hendrik is from Holland. A gray-haired man nodded at them. Olaf comes from Norway. A muscular blonde-haired man crossed his arms as he stared at them. And I'm Blackhawk from Poland. All countries occupied by the Axis authorities, Superman commented as Blackhawks stared for a second before replying. We Blackhawks bowed to no authority until our countries are free. Again he finished as Andre exclaimed something in French. Are these guys for real? Flash asked quietly as Blackhawk continued. We would gladly lay down our life for our cause. We can't win the war alone. Girl spoke up, smiling. Weck be honored to fight with you. Earlier with JN enemy trucks went over A small stone bridge looking for the Allied forces. John fell out from underneath one and rolled down to a creek. What have we here? John turned around and saw three men all in army uniforms. The one on his right is an average height blonde-haired man. The one in the middle is a muscular blonde-haired man with a machine gun, and the third has red hair and a full beard. Doesn't look German. Bulldozer, the red-haired man replied to the muscular man. Could be a spy, Bulldozer said before hearing another voice. Hold it, Bulldozer. Turning around they saw another blonde-haired man with a 5 o'clock shadow walking over. I saw him earlier when I was on recon. He walked to John and nodded at him. Noms John Stewart. The man looked at John's rein and raised the eyebrow. What's that fancy rein? A secret weapon? John shook his head before replying, not anymore. Out of power. The man sighed and shook his head. Too bad, could have used it. Since we're stuck behind enemy lines. Bulldozer walked up to John and glared at him. Forget it, Sarge, he's no soldier. Bulldozer tried to push John down only to get punched in the face by John, who punched his stomach and elbowed him in the back, making him fall over. Where did you learn that move? The man asked. Walking up U.S. Marine Corps. Bulldozer sat up and looked to the sergeant. Sergeant Rock interrupted him by hitting him in the chest with the butt of his gun. I don't want to hear it. We need all the help we can get. Rock handed John a gun and explained, looking for a hidden runway. Welcome to Easy Comp. Any soldier, Rock said, walking away as John looked to the rifle he was given with Naruto, Steve and Diana. Naruto jumped down to an abandoned house as Diana flew down with Steve. Thanks, Angel Whiskers. Steve thanked Diana while gritting out Naruto's nickname. No problem, Steve, Naruto replied, crossing his AR. Miz trying his best to ignore Steve's attitude. I'll take it from here, Steve said, turning to the house. Wait, if your mission is as important as you say, we should stay and protect you. I wouldn't mind your company, Steve replied before folding his arms. But what about your green friend? Diana smiled at him before replying, don't worry, he has a way to blend in. Steve looked at both of them, having Naruto bit back a growl as he stayed on Diana a little longer than he'd like. They walked to the house with Steve holding the door open for Diana, and slam landed in Naruto's face. He sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. Remember, Nar, he has information, he thought before walking in, and heard Steve explain he's waiting for a spy named Ernst who can crack the communicator he stole. Naruto walked over to the window as Steve sat on a couch and puts his feet on a foot. Doctorist. Diana walked over to Naruto, who was leaning on his elbows. I'm surprised you haven't hit him for how he's treating you. Naruto sighed before turning his attention. Mention to her, then I'll be adding to the circle of hate. Diana looked confused at that circle of hate. Naruto smiled and explained, someone will want to avenge him, and then someone will want to avenge me, and it'll just continue to go on and on in an unending circle, so I don't plan to add anything to it. Diana smiled and puts her hand over his left one, and they looked at each other with Naruto blushing a little. You'd be surprised what nobility leaves behind. They quickly turned to RNED around and saw Steve with a plate of caviar bread, 2 wine glasses, kai teacup, and a bottle of wine. He handed Naruto a piece of bread and the chipped glass of water. Naruto sighed, walking back to the window as Steve handed Diana some caviar spread across a cracker. You're a strange man, Steve Trevo. You don't have any powers, yet you fight in a war. Aren't you afraid of dying? Steve smiled and explained, some things are worth dying for. I met you, didn't I? He reached for the bottle and tried to open it, only for Naruto to push them both to the ground. Suddenly bullets littered the couch. Damn, they must have captured Ernst. Naruto got up and picked up his bow handle. What are you going to do with a stick? Steve asked before Naruto unfolded his bow. He walked near the door before hearing a gasp. Turning around, Naruto saw Steve kiss Diana, and his eyes flickered red. Turning to the door, Naruto kicked it open and fired several arrows near the group, and they exploded. A second later, Diana watched from the window as Naruto took out the group, with Steve providing covering fire. That kiss, it felt wrong, it felt disgusting, she thought. Touching her lips, looked to Naruto and thought to the times she kissed him on the cheek. When I kissed him on the cheek earlier, it felt great. Do I like him? She finished. Seeing Naruto jump in the air, Nar went through several hand signs before shooting multiple bullets of air out of his mouth. Futon Kuki Dong Gon Wind Release Air bullets. He hits all but one who got on a motorcycle. Lin drove near him. Naruto quickly jumped forward as the soldier got near him, feigned a kick and punched him off the bike. Walking over to the groaning man, Naruto lifted him in the air. "Where is Ernst?" he asked as the man sweated. "Kurama, Superman, Hawk Girl and Flash at Blackhawk Island." Blackhawk dropped 3 photos of a factory on the table. They were all sitting at. "What are they building?" Flash asked, with Blackhawk putting a map of it down with 3 red circles on it in 3 different places. "We don't know, but it can't be good. They placed 3 anti-craft guns in 3 places. You take them out and we'll be clear to bomb them." The others looked at each other and nodded. "Just point us in the right direction," Kurama said, walking past them to the door. "Eager, isn't he?" Blackhawk asked as the others glanced at each other. "He just doesn't get out much," Superman said cryptically before following after Kurama. With John and Easy Company. John and Easy Company were pinned down in a trench as a soldier shot at them from a foxhole. "Wildman, can you throw a grenade in there?" Rock asked the red-haired man, who nodded. "Used to pitch in the bush leagues. I've got a nasty spitball." Rock nodded before giving out the PLA. Dozer. "Ice cream, go left. I'll stay in the middle." "Wild men, go to the other side." "John, cover us." As they left, John looked to his gun before watching the others move into place. Wildman pulled out a grenade but was grazed in the leg and dropped the grenade a few feet away. John looked around, saw a sniper in the trees and shot him. Rock ran up and threw a grenade, blowing up the hole. A medic came up and tended to Wildman's wounds. "Sorry Sarge, they shot me in the leg." Rock looked down at him for a second. "You'll live." Bulldozer roughly brushed past JN. "I thought you were watching our back. I guess you're not hot stuff without that fancy rainho?" he asked before walking away, with Rock looking between the two with Vandal savage. "Damn it," Vandal cursed, looking at his broken laptop with the general he shocked earlier. "I'm sorry, mein Führer, but the prisoner overpowered Joseph." Vandal sighed before throwing the computer on the floor. "He knows too much. We'll need to move the invasion up. Prepare Operation Endgame." The general coughed and fixed his glasses. "I'm afraid we can't do that. One of our coded communicators is missing. We think it was the spy." Vandal walked over and backhandedly slapped him. "Imbecile, you'd better get it back or make sure it's destroyed," he yelled as the man looked to him for a second. "We're working on it now, sir." With Naruto, Steve and Diana. Naruto, Diana and Steve were on a hill in front of a prison. The guy said, "This is where Ernst is," Naruto said as Steve looked through binoculars. "Are you sure he's telling the truth?" Nar snorted before replying, "I'm sure. I've got a built-in lie detector." Naruto pushed the button on his glasses and looked around. "There's a hidden door under the bridge there." Naruto took his bow and one of his Heron Flying Thunder God arrows and shot it under the bridge. "Hold on, Nar," Yuto said, grabbing Steve's and Diana's shoulder, and flashed to the arrow. "Holy crap," Steve whispered, holding his stomach as Naruto kneeled down and removed the dirt from the hidden manhole cover. They jumped down into a tunnel and walked down near the building. Naruto came up to the end of the hall. ND motioned for the others to stop. He waited for a moment before grabbing a guard and putting him in a sleeper hold. After a moment, the guards stopped struggling and they continued down the hall to a door. "Hold it, there's a guard on the other side," Naruto said quietly, opening the door and brought the guard through and knocked him out. They walked up to the next hallway and Naruto looked around. "There's only one person on this floor that's tied up. It may be Ernst." Walking to the room, they saw an elderly man tied up and blindfolded. Diana ripped the door off, walked inside and helped the man up. "Ernst, are you all right?" Steve asked as Ernst rubbed his wrists. "You shouldn't have come," Ernst said as Steve smiled. "You don't have to thank me." Ernst pointed at the window. "No, it's a trap." Looking out the windows, they saw several wheels and a bunch of soldiers coming to them. "Damn, I guess that soldier told them we were coming," Nar said before thinking of a plan. "Get to the wall and hand me that communicator." Nar picked up a madras and wrapped it around Steve and Ernst after he had the communicator. "Good thing I have a clone." Gathering chakra," he said before creating another clone and dispelling it a moment later. Nar entered Sage mode, pulling the top off the communicator. He pocketed it and threw the top away. "Hold on, Diana," he said, taking her to the mattress and stood in front of her. The wheels shot the top of the building, causing it to fall, and then ran over the rubble. The wheels moved as the soldiers "Ooped for the heroes, leave no stone unturned," the general said as they shifted through the debris. "Sir," one soldier yelled, holding up the top part of the communicator, and the general smiled. Later, after the German army left, Naruto pushed the wall off of him and Diana, who unwrapped the madras. "Well, I'm Lad, you two are on our side, Steve said. Ernst said something in German, making Naruto and Diana's eyes widen. Your German? Diana asked, making Ernst nod yes, but don't worry, we're not all like them. Nar handed Ernst the communicator. Here you go. Naruto rubbed his shoulder before feeling a hand on it. Ning around. Naruto saw Diana looking nervous. What's wrong, Diana? He asked before she walked up to him. I want to say thanks and try something, she said as he nodded. No need to say thanks, you're my. He was cut off as Diana gave him a quick kiss on the lips. This feels right, she thought, deepening the kiss. As Naruto's eyes widened before she pulled back and she looked worried. I'm sorry, Naruto, I was just. She tried to apologize but was cut off by Naruto kissing her back. He wrapped his hands around her waist and she wrapped hers around his neck, pulling back. Naruto looked to her. Well, that was unexpected. She smiled and explained, well, I felt something for you and just needed confirmation if it was love I was feeling or not. Later the heroes were in an abandoned bunker watching Ernst work on the communicator. I got it. Steve looked to him after staring at Naruto and Diana. Where are they? Invading Berlin, Londo. Ernst shook his head. No, America. Their eyes widened at that. Lead and go, Naruto said, walking to the door. Will I see you again? Diana looked to Steve. Maybe, she said before walking out and picking up Naruto as they flew in the sky. Superman, Hayat Girl, Flash, Kurama and the Black Hawks. There they are. Kurama Elda's Hawk Girl held him, seeing the factory with the 3 anti-personnel guns shooting them. Kurama let go and dashed to one of the guns and blew it up as Hayat Girl and Superman took the other 2. Flash sped into the factory and a minute later the workers ran out. The Blackhawks flew low and dropped ped bombs down, destroying the factory. The hero walked up to what was left of the factory and Superman looked to Flash. Great work getting the workers out. Hot Girl kicked some dirt around before speaking up. What were they working on? Flash pointed to his left and replied, on that. Kurama moved the wall away, showing a jet engine. A jet? But that's to advance. HW Girl said in disbelief. Suddenly they heard another voice speak up. It's from the future. Turning around they saw Gene land down. He went on to explain that Vandal sent a laptop to his past self with planes of the war and schematics for vehicles and weapons. Blackhawk landed near them and opened his cockpit. I've got word that the enemy is invading America. The hero's eyes widened before Flash spoke up. Then we need to warn the good guys. Which way is west? Blackhawk pointed to his left. That way. But why? He stopped his. Flash sped away. Hopefully he find help if we need it, Kurama commented before dashing to the beach after Flash with John and Easy Company. John and Easy Company were on a hill looking at a map of the area. We've cased the area. Maybe GHQ got some bad info, Bulldozer said as Rockside. It wouldn't be the first time, he replied as Joe HN and Wildman nodded. Maybe the map's wrong, Wildman commented as John looked around. Yeah, this hill isn't even on the map. I wonder, John said, walking to the edge and kneeled down. Bulldozer scoffed before walking over. What do we need you for anyway? You're a big man. When that ring worked, but as soon as he fell through a hole as he got near John. I knew it, JN said. Seen the room under the grass, a fake hill. They jumped down and saw large black jets down the hall in a hangar. As they walked to the hangar they saw soldiers and the wheels going into them. Maybe we could put mines on the tarmac, Bulldozer sigh as John shook his head. No time now. Looking ahead they saw Vandal get out of a car and walk up the ramp. Get them, Rock yelled before they opened fire on Vandal, having him and the army quickly get in the jets and leave. I'll stop him, John said, walking out and dropping his gun. You can't stop a plane now, Rock said before John broke out in a sprint. Watch me. He ran to a motorcycle and chased after Vandal's jet. Easy Company fired at the soldiers that stayed and keeping the jet from flying by blowing the wheels up. As the first jet started flying, John jumped on the wheel and went inside. Good luck, soldier, Rock said to John before firing at the German army with Superman, Hawk Girl, Kurama and John. A few minutes later the heroes watched the jets come through the clouds with the front one started descending. Superman flew up and attacked the first one until it started shooting at him. Gene phased through the wing and bent the gun's barrel so they exploded. Kurama on the ground started to gather chakra and it started to surround him with tails forming behind him. Picture Naruto's tailed beast cloak version to form. He gathered 9 tails before looking to the jets behind the first one. Better make sure not To hit the first one since John's in it, he started forming a small black ball in front of his mouth and waited for the first jet to descend. More suddenly the jet fell rapidly and Kurama shot the ball up, hitting 3 other jets. Dama-tailed beast bomb. The heroes stared wide-eyed as they saw Kurama take out 3 jets effortlessly and jumped high up to another, holding the wing, stretched his chakra arms and grab another and smashed the 2 together. I can't believe how strong he is. Can we trust him to not turn on us? Hawk Girl asked as Superman stared down. We can trust Naruto, he replied. Before several allied warships came up and started firing on the few jets left, forcing them to flee. Superman looked down and saw a flash of the ships watching them. Kurama jumped to the last one and attacked the wing before jumping off and being caught by Jean Jans on the jet. That's falling, John commented to Hawk Girl, who flew over to the jet and saw John fighting Vandal hitting the windshield. She held out her hand. Come on. John grabbed it and they flew away as the jet crashed in the water on the ground. Diana and Naruto landed and saw the Blackhawks take care of the last remaining jets. Well, I guess we Ist the fun, Naruto commented before Kurama walked over. Yes kid, you sure did, he replied before going back in Naruto and having the clone pop. Naruto groaned as he held his head and would have fallen if Diana didn't catch him. Thanks, he said as she puts his arm around her shoulders and gave him a quick kiss. No problem, she replied as the others stared. Damn, he got Diana, Flash asked before hearing a beep. Naruto looked at his watch and saw that only had 15 minutes to get back home. Crap, let's go, he yelled as Diana flew with him, the others following suit, with Hawk Girl taking John and Flash ran with them. Later they came to the portal in the train station, noticing it getting smaller. Quick jump, Naruto yelled before jumping in with the others following after, and the portal closed. Metropolis, present day. Each of them jumped out of the hole before it collapsed. Home sweet home, right? Flash asked before hearing Batman speak up. I figure you'd be here. Turning around they saw Batman in his costume with Kara beside him. Kara. Naruto ran over and kissed her. Well, what was that for? She asked, breaking the kiss before Naruto let her go. Sorry, I've got to check on Barbara and Barb, the others will tell you what happened. Ned, he replied before disappearing with Diana walking up to Karara. Karara, I've got to tell you, me and Naruto. Kara held up a hand stopping her. I'm guessing you're going to be with Naruto. 3 nodding. Diana explained what happened with Cheetah at Naruto's house. Barbara in her human form was feeding Hun Tear when she felt Nar wrap his arms around her. Hey lover boy. Turning around she gave Naruto a kiss. Hey, I'm glad you're alright. She raised an eyebrow at him. Why wouldn't I? She asked as Naruto sighed. He took her to the couch and explained everything that happened. Barbara and Richard, really? Naruto nod. Yeah, I'm sure now there's universes where I never came here and that's happened, he explained before Hunter jumped on him. Down boy, he said, pushing him off. Getting up, Naruto smiled at her. I'm going to check up on Barbara, he said before giving her a kiss, rubbed Hunter's head and disappearing at Barbara Ra's apartment. Naruto flashed in Barbara's bedroom. Hey Barb, he stopped seeing her lying on her bed on her stomach reading a book in nothing but one of his black shirts and black panties. Hey Naruto, she greeted the now speechless Naruto. Smiling, she got up and walked over to him. She wrapped her arms around him and gave him a kiss, in which he returned. What's with the surprised visit? He looked down to her and smiled. Just making sure you're here and all right. He picked her up bridal style and brought them to the bed and told her everything. Really? I was with Richard, she asked as he nodded. What about Cheetah and Kara? Naruto sighed before leaning forward. Kurama said he couldn't feel Kara, and I guess because I wasn't there in that timeline. Barb was still a criminal. Well, I thought I would be with Bruce. Naruto blinked before turning to her. What? I thought he was cute. Naruto's jaw dropped at that. What? She smiled before scooting closer to him. Yeah, I had a crush on Bruce before I met you, she said before pushing him on the bed, straddle his waist, leaned down and kissed him. A few days later, cemetery with Diana and Naruto. Naruto's car pulled beside a hill and stopped. Naruto got out of the driver's side and his suit and walked around, opening the door for Diana, who's in a black dress. They walked up to the top where 2 tombstones were under a tree. Diana walked up to one and read the name Steve Trevor, and the other one besides his read a Candy Trevor. Naruto unsealed 2 bouquets of flowers and left Them on each one you going to be okay? Naruto asked Diana, who nodded yes. She replied, not looking away from the tombstones. We could still see him. I'm sure we'll be traveling to the past again. Weck see him then. She smiled at him before they both left John retirement home. John in a beige coat, black pants, and wearing sunglasses walked inside the building to a receptionist, a brown-haired woman. Excuse me, is a Sergeant Rock here? The woman nodded and pointed to a group of elderly men playing cards. He walked over and Rock looked up to him. I'm guessing you went back in time if you're here. John raised an eyebrow at that. Before sitting down, we figured you went back in time once we saw you on TV, Wildman said as he started dealing cards. John picked up his cards and threw in some poker chips on the table. Chapter 14, Twilight Apocalypse. A green hologram of a man with a black mustache goatee combo looked up to a muscular man in black blue trimmed armor with gray skin and red eyes. Lord Darkseid, we were attacked as soon as we hit the troposphere. We in full retreat. Darkseid looked to the hologram as two men, one in robes and a hood over his face and the other with wild long hair, walked to him. The one in robes spoke up as he turned around. You know, going in that sector violates our treaty with New Genesis. Darkseid looked to him before replying, it's a risk I was willing to take. Darkseid looked back to the hologram. It was an honor to fight with you, General. Take as many as you can with you. The general nodded before the hologram shorted out with the general screaming, we lost contact. Suddenly a man with a silver helmet with a sun on the forehead came up on the hologram and spoke up, the general can't come to the phone now. Darkseid's eyes glowed as he growled and leaned forward. Orion continued as he smirked, but here's a present from High Father. After a moment the building shook and exploded. Darkseid pushed the rubble from him and a hologram of an elderly man with a beard came up. This is your last warning. Darkseid, break the treaty again and we'll retaliate. Darkseid sighed as he looked to the crater in his city the blast caused. Later, as Darkseid citizens were fixing his statue, a big ship came down and started attacking as a green force field went around it. Darkseid narrowed his eyes as a robot with a purple silver trimmed body, green head with 3 dots on his forehead forming a triangle floated out. Watchtower. Later, Shira was watching a documentary that was featuring hawks on a TV broadcast. Magnificent, aren't they? Turning around, she saw Jean and Naruto at the doorway. She nodded before back to the screen. Yes, they are. Nar and Jan walked in up to her and Nar looked down to her feeling homesick. She turned to him surprised as Jean spoke up, it doesn't take a telepath to know what you're thinking. She sighed before answering, no, I guess not. Naruto puts a hand on her shoulder and smiled, what to talk? Looking up, she smiled before they walked down the hall and she told the Saint Ori of how she came to Earth. I tracked them to their fortress and like a ranked amateur I stumbled right into a trap. By all rights I should be dead. Their particle beam ripped my molecules apart and sent them halfway across the cosmos. She finished looking out the window. Jan stared at her for a second before speaking up, and you have no idea where your home is? Shira looked back before replying, John, we're so far away that we've never came in contact with the Green Lantern Corps or even one of their members for that matter. Naruto glanced out the window before crossing his arms, I'm sure you'll find home. She smiled before noticing Jean looking down, Jan looking up to them. He replied, I was just thinking you, me, Cage, Wonder Woman, Superman, we are all of us orphans and exiles. Shira smiled before speaking up, maybe we should call ourselves the Justice League, earning a chuckle from both Jean and Nar. Yuto. Suddenly the watchtower shook. What the hell is that? Naruto asked before jumping down as the others flew. When he got to the bottom he saw Batman, Wonder Woman and Superman looking at a computer. Sensors have been picking up a powerful energy surge, Batman said as Superman leaned in. I've never seen a thing like this. Superman narrowed his eyes before speaking up, it's a boom tube. Suddenly a web-lighted tunnel came up behind them and Darkseid walked out. Hello, we meet again, Kal-El. Superman glared at him, dashed over and punched him into a wall, shaking the tower. Batman pointed to them and yelled out, stop them before they push us out of orbit. Wonder Woman and JN ran over and stopped Superman. Wait, Superman, don't, Wonder Woman said as she held his right arm. I see you haven't forgotten me at all, Darkseid said, standing up and crossing his arms behind his back. Superman just glared at him. What do You want dark side before explaining, though it pains me to say it, I need your help. I last skirmish with New Genesis left my forces at less than full strength. Wonder Woman and John let Superman go as he stopped struggling. Why should we help you? Dark side brought up a controller and brought up a screen showing the robot. Because my enemy is your enemy. Even as we speak, Apocalypse is being threatened by a Kryptonian menace known as Brainiac. Superman just scoffed at him. You're lying, I destroyed him. Darkseid shook his head. Apparently he's harder to kill than you think. You should know his pat. Earn by heart. Kal-El, once he get all the information from my planet. Superman picked up where he left off. He'll destroy it. Good. Everyone but Naro and Batman looked shocked at him. Darkseid created another boom tube and stepped in. You may not care what happens to me or my world, but know this: once he's one with my plant, millions, countless more are in jeopardy. Leaving in the tube, the others looked to Superman. Hawkgirl walked up to him. So you're going to let millions of lives die just because you don't like this guy? Superman turned to face the group. You don't know him like I do, he said before, but Ma N spoke up. We know he used you, humiliated you, brainwashed you, wounded you up like a toy soldier, and turned you on the world. He walked up to Superman as he talked and got in his face. Cry me a river. Superman narrowed his eyes as Naruto walked over. Come on, Superman, the people under him are innocent. The ones that's not in his army anyway. Superman ignored him as he continued to glare at Batman. Be the better man, at least stop Brainiac. But if the off chance that Darkseid's not telling the truth, we'll kick his ass. Batman nodded and continued talking to Superman. On the outside chance this isn't a shem. By Darkseid, we need to act and take out Brainiac. Jan walked up and puts a hand on Superman's shoulder. Brainiac has already taken countless worlds. Do you want that to be your people's legacy? Superman sighed, and after a moment he replied, I'm telling you, there's something wrong with this whole scenario. Naruto shrugged before speaking up. Like I said, we'll kick both of their asses. Superman walked up to Batman. We'll play Darkseid's game for now, but I need you to do something for me. Superman, Jean, Hawkgirl, and Kurama at Apocalypse. Brainiac was attacking Darkseid's army as a force field was protecting his ship. A boom tube opened and the heroes in the Javelin flew in. Hawkgirl looked at Superman and raised an eyebrow. Looks like Darkseid's telling the truth. Superman glanced at Brainiac before unbuckling his seat belt. I still think something's up. All but John unbuckled up and flew out with Kurama J. Umping down and again. No bold words, and Kurama will only be used as a backup plan for the team. Superman flew to the force field and was thrown back to Darkseid. Weak, you'll never beat him like that. Superman looked up to him before speaking up, and I suppose you have a better idea. Darkseid glanced back to Brainiac before replying, you should know by now I always have a plan. Naruto, Wonder Woman, and Batman on the surface of New Genesis. The three heroes walked out of the boom tube and Batman groaned, leaning on a broken wall that was uncomfortable. He said, standing up and pocketing the remote for he boom tube. They looked around and saw only fields and trees. Are we in the right place? Naruto asked, looking around before the ground shook. Suddenly a giant worm-like creature came out of the ground. Oh come on, my luck's not that bad. Naruto quickly got his bow out and fired an explosive arrow at the CR. The creature shook its head and attacked them, catching Batman in his mouth. Wonder Woman's eyes widened. Batman, she flew up and tried to pry open the creature's mouth. Naruto took out an arrow with a green glowing tip. Out of the way, he yelled, shooting the arrow, which exploded in gas, having the CR sway before falling down asleep. Are you all right? Looking back, they saw a man with red skin, black eyes, in a white robe and a blue shield. Naruto nodded before speaking up. Yes, thank you. The man nodded before giving his names. I'm called Forager. Do you know where we could find Orion? Forager took a step back and looked down. Orion, I'm just an unworthy bug. Orion is a god that's high above us. Wonder Woman looked surprised at that. Don't beat yourself up. Forager looked back up before pointing up to the sky. No, they're really above us. Looking up, the heroes saw a floating golden city. I'm going to nay Ed a longer grab. No. Wonder Woman and Naruto looked at Batman, who spoke up. Naruto grabbed one of his Haitian flying thunder god arrows and handed it to Wonder Woman. Here, throw this when you get up there. Wonder Woman flew up with Batman as Naruto sat down on the ground. How come you're not going? Naruto Lu Head to Forager before shrugging I'll be there in a minute. After a moment Naro disappeared and came up to a building where he saw a man with short brown hair, a white costume, red boots, gloves and trunks flying with Wonder Woman. He narrowed his eyes when he raised his hand. Smack. Hey Nar glared as the M and slapped Wonder Woman's ass, adding chakra to his legs. Naruto jumped across the buildings after the group. He saw Batman drop down on a bridge as the man flew around the other side of the building it's connected to and dropped down beside him. Batman took off his cape and Naruto grabbed it with him and held it open. The man flew into the cape and fell to the ground and was caught by Wonder Woman, who held him still. Calm down, we don't want to hurt you, she said before hearing a click behind her. Turning around, the group saw Orion in a red costume and in a jetpack with a gun pointed at them. No, you won. On Apocalypse, Superman flew up with a stone support, threw it at Brainiac but was destroyed by the field. Brainiac looked towards Superman before speaking up. Kal-El, what brings you so far from your adopted home? Brainiac asked as Superman glared at him. To take you down. Brainiac brought his right arm up and a keypad opened up. If your father Jor-El couldn't stop me, what makes you think you can disable the force field and find out? Brainiac shook his head before answering, no, I don't think that's me necessary. Suddenly a beam of electricity came out of his hands, went through the field and hit Superman. Superman powered through and flew to the field and started pulling the hole so he can get through. A beam went under Superman's leg and hits Brainiac, making a hole in his chest. Brainiac tried to bring his right arm up but was attacked by Superman's heat vision, cutting the arm off. The field dispelled, having the army attack and hit Superman and Brainiac another time. Cell, Brainiac said as a light from his ship hits him, taking him inside. No, Superman flew after his Hawk Girl, followed with 3 of Brainiac attack bots coming after them. Superman hits one, having it explode. He hits the other ones, having the explosion send him into Hawk Girl and sends both to the ground. Kurorama, who took care of his bots, saw the 2 falling. Crap, he dashed over, jumped up and caught them before they fell, creating a small crater. Superman and Hawk Girl groaned as they sat up. Superman looked to Hawk Girl before speaking. Up, you all right? She nodded before Kurama let out an annoyed grunt. That's good and all, but could you to do me a tiny favor? Get off of me. Getting up, the group heard an engine and Darkseid stopped by them on a small ship. What are you waiting for? Get him. Superman just stared at him before speaking. You only because you asked nicely. The javelin hovered over them and each went up inside. Hot Girl strapped in and looked to Superman. Still think Darkseid has a hidden agenda? Superman nodded before replying, I'd bet the farm on it. They followed the ship into an asteroid field and eventually came to a one where the ship went into. After it went over a hill it disappeared. What the hell? Kurama asked as they came up to 3 holes that looks like the ones on Brainiac's forehead. He really put that symbol on here. What's next? The asteroid looking like him. When they got to the holes, a beam hits the javelin and pulls them in a hole. John looked to a screen and spoke up, we're being pulled, we have no control. Superman looked forward for a moment before he spoke, keep your eyes open. Soon they landed on a platform, walked out and another platform came up to them. Walking on, they went to a big room with Brainiac's 3 circles on the floor. Welcome. Kal-El. Turning around they saw Brainiac come up on a throne. When I made you the offer to join me, I'll make it again. Superman just scoffed at him. You must be joking. Why do you reject your great heritage? Suddenly pictures of Krypton and Superman's parents came up. Its entire history is coded in me. Superman looked at each screen as Hawk Girl looked at him. Superman, you can't be. Think. She stopped as he raised his hand before Brainiac finished. I am Krypton. Superman just glared again. You're a perversion, dishonoring the very memory of its people. People, my people. And this is your final decision? Superman just stared at him. Read my lips. Go to he. Brainiac stopped him and brought 2 cannons out. Move. Kurama created a hand and took 1 cannon out as Jean fought through another. Soon everyone attacked Brainiac, with Hawk Girl delivering the last blow. Someone had to do it, she panted out as Superman smiled. Is it over? Jan asked before Brainiac spoke up. No, it's far from over. Turning around they saw several Brainiacs come flying out and attacked. Kurama created several ethereal hands, grabbed 5 of them and slammed them together as the others were taking care of their Brainiac's a boom tube opened up behind Kurama. As he turned around, he was HD by beams from Darkseid's eyes sent into Jean and Hawkgirl and sent into the floor. Darkseid Superman turned around and was shocked by Brainiac and Darkseid until he was conscious. Brainiac floated down to Superman and lo. Octup, it appears our strategy was a success. Darkseid nodded, looking at the hole the others made before turning around. Yes, I delivered. Superman, will you leave Apocalypse alone? React nodded as he took Superman down the hall with Darkseid following. Earlier on, New Genesis High Father, holding a staff, was teaching a group of kids as they trimmed rose bushes. One blonde-haired girl looked on in sadness as her bush looked like it was dead. I hate this. High Father looked to her. What's wrong, little one? The girl pointed to her bush and explained, I've tried, High Father. Really, I have, but look. High Father smiled before speaking. Patience, my dear, everything has a purpose and a place. The girl flicked a worm off of her bush. Everything. High Father nodded before putting his staff on the bush and it grew healthy. High Father turning around, High Father saw Orion without his pack. Naruto, Batman, Wonder Woman and I run up to him. Urgent news from Apocalypse. Wonder Woman spoke up, we're friends of Superman to tell you Darkseid's under attack at Apocalypse. High Father looked to the kids. Follow me. Wek, be a moment. Children walking a few feet away, the heroes explained what's happening on Apocalypse while Orion tried to get High Father to give the okay demount and attack. You forget, in the name of peace we swore not to interfere on Apocalypse. We made a pact, as long as Darkseid's in power there can be no real peace. High Father nodded before speaking up, there is truth in what you say. Orion interrupted him and said his fist, then give the order. High Father shook his head before looking at Orion. No. High Father went on to explain of the war between New Genesis and Apocalypse before the peace treaty. I must communicate with the source. You will wait for my order. Orion nodded before walking away. Yes, High Father. He punched the wall as the heroes looked to each other. Later, Orion was putting on his pack as Wonder Woman spoke up, those people down below, who are they? Orion looked back before replying, no one important, just bugs. He floated up as the heroes walked to him. What are you doing? Wonder Woman asked as Orion puts a remote on his pack facing Darkseid. Their eyes widened at that, but High Father told you to wait. Orion turned on the remote, making a boom tube, and flew in. Batman growled before following after. Next time I let Superman take charge, just punch me real hard. Naruto jumped in after him and Wonder, whoa, man, I'll hold you to that with Superman. Superman screamed as he was hooked up to a platform with Brainiac's logo on his head. Darkseid puts a small box on a computer he was standing by and the room turned black. What are you doing? Brainiac asked before Darkseid explained, just overriding your roles to follow my orders. Back in the other room, Kurama pulled the others out of the hole. I guess the Boy Scout was right. Can you find him? Jean Kurama asked as Jean's eyes glowed. No, he's either unconscious or Hayat girl picked up Kurama and flew down the hall, passing pictures of other worlds. Jan's poke up after looking around. So many worlds, there may be information on Thanagar. Hot girl stiffened before speaking up. No time for that, let's find Superman. Kurama looked up to her for a moment. She's either really has her head in the game or she doesn't want us to see something. They flew in and saw Superman tied up on a platform screaming. Hawkgirl attacked Darkseid, sending him down on another platform. Brainiac stopped them. Several Brainiacs flew up and started attacking them. Hawkgirl destroyed several before being hit and fell to a platform unconscious. Suddenly Orion and the other flew in and he LPED attack other the Brainiacs. Naruto shot several EMP arrows at them before noticing Hawkgirl's prone form. Hawkgirl, he jumped down and picked her up. Jean helped them up as Batman banged on the computer freeing Superman. He groaned before standing up. Where's Darkseid? Kurama jumped down after Destro. Ying, another Brainiac. Don't know, don't care, we need to get out of here now. Everyone left and later came up to the javelin. Naruto puts Hawkgirl down before looking around. Where's Superman? Everyone looked around before Batman cursed, go on, we'll catch up. Kurama followed after him. I'll make sure they'll be all right. They ran and found Superman walking to a down Darkseid under rubble. Superman, Batman yelled as Superman looked back. Go, I'm finishing this. Batman ran over and grabbed his shoulder but was hit to the wall. Go now. He tried to walk back but Chakra hand stopped him as another picked up an UNC Onsis Orion now bats Batman hits the remote to a boom tube peeling them in right before the base exploded later on the surface of New Genesis Kurorama punched Superman having him spit blood. You idiot, you almost killed Orion because you were too blinded by hate. Superman stared at him before Ama continued, could you live with that, his blood on your hands? Or what if people from New Genesis wanted to attack you on Earth in retaliation, revenge? How would you deal with them attacking billions of people because you let one of their own die on your watch? Superman said nothing before looking to see Naruto take off his right glove, revealing a white circle on his palm. Naruto puts his hand on Orion for a moment before turning to Hi Father Hyun, be fine now. Walking over to the now awake H girl, he put his hand on her before groaning as Kurama dispelled. Ha girl looked amazed as her ribs stopped hurting. They good as new, I could still kiss them to make them better if you want. Hot girl flicked him in the forehead before standing up. Easy lover boy, Diana probably won't like that. Naruto chuckled, putting the glove on before feeling a hand on his shoulder. Turning around, he saw Diana looking at him.